Railing tomorrow's Mueller hearing, Democrats pushing to squeeze in a surprise witness. Mueller's expected testimony in jeopardy. Hello, everyone. I'm Julie Banderas in for Dana Perino, and this is the Daily Briefing. The ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee raising alarms and predicting possible chaos ensues as Mueller asks Democrats to allow Mueller's longtime aide to testify as a witness alongside the special counsel. Listen.
At his press conference, Bob had said that he intended to stick with the public report and not go beyond that. And in conversations with the department, his staff was reiterating that that was their position. And they asked us for guidance in writing to explain or to tell them what our position was. So we responded in writing. The department sent the guidance they had requested.
So Mueller actually requested?
Yes.
Fox team coverage now. Anchor Brett Baer just ahead, but we start with Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge with what to expect for tomorrow. Hey, Catherine.
Well, Julie, good afternoon. A short time ago, the Republican chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Doug Collins, put out a statement about the Democrats possibly calling this surprise witness. And the key line is buried at the bottom that the move could, quote, jeopardize tomorrow's hearing. Aaron Zebley is counsel for Robert Mueller and, according to the statement, could advise him privately and simultaneously testifying along by his side. This, we are told, may violate House rules about notification. And a lawyer also acting as a sworn witness is a gray area. Collins' statement reads in part, quote, a last-minute addition to the witness list would now jeopardize whether tomorrow's hearing complies with the rules of the House. This apparent stunt, he writes, is unsurprising in light of the Democrats' repeated attempts to circumvent, misrepresent, and flout the rules and procedures governing this committee's business. Also, a senior Justice Department official sending the former special counsel a letter formally advising him to limit his public testimony to the report and his statement of 2 months ago after the report was complete. It reads in part, quote, should you testify, the department understands that testimony regarding the work of the special counsel's office will be governed by the terms you outlined on May 29th, specifically that the information you discussed during your testimony appears in and does not, quote, go beyond the public version of your March 22nd, 2019 report to the Attorney General or your May 29th public statement. That means no classified information, nothing behind the redacted or blacked out sections, and more significantly, nothing more about uncharged third parties. That's a broad exception, but it would also include the President of the United States. Just a little bit more on Aaron Zebley. He is someone who you always see almost in Mueller's shadow. He's been with him for about 2 decades. He was an FBI agent, chief of staff to Mueller at the FBI. And then when Mueller left around 2014, Zebley also left, went into private practice with Mueller. And then when he joined the special counsel team, he went with him. So he's someone who has been at his side for about 2 decades, but more significantly at his side throughout the special counsel investigation, Julie.
All right, Catherine Herridge, thank you very much. Meanwhile, Democrats are rejecting guidance from the Justice Department, which Mueller has requested, directing him to focus solely on the unredacted report and the portion of his report. Listen.
You don't think they have any authority to instruct him in that way? Must he comply with that letter?
No, he must. No, he does not have to comply with that letter. He doesn't work for them. And that letter asks things that are beyond the power of the agency to ask, even if he still worked for them.
Let's bring in Brett Baer, anchor of Special Report and our chief political anchor. Brett, always great to see you. The Mueller, report is public. At least 400 some pages of it are. And do you actually think Democrats are only going to stick to the public portion of that when they ask them the questions?
I missed the beginning there because the audio was a little mixed up there, Julie. But let me just say one thing.
Yeah.
The fact that you had that soundbite from the Attorney General saying that that Mueller himself requested this letter that essentially reiterated what the special counsel, now former special counsel, said to reporters after that report was put out there, that he would stick to the letter of what's in the 400-plus page report, is significant, because you had Jerry Nadler saying, listen, they shouldn't have done that, and this is the wrong move for the DOJ to send this letter. It was at the request of Mueller. So that tells you a lot, potentially, of what we could be looking at tomorrow.
Yeah, so he can ask not to be asked about anything other than the public 400 plus pages of that report. But what's to say Democrats are actually going to go by that? Because the Democrats are, they've read the whole thing, many of them. I don't know about all of them. I don't know if they're going to really stick to that. So is this just going to be a complete mess? Because they're going to want to ask questions that aren't necessarily in that public report.
I mean, it could be. It could be pretty messy. We've seen many times before, as you know, that these hearings that are covered extensively end up being, opportunities to be in the spotlight for these lawmakers who are, trying to make a campaign commercial for back home. The hope on the Democratic side is to have Mueller lay out in soundbite form the report, so that the people who didn't read it, and there are a lot of Americans who didn't, can see and hear what they say is extremely significant, and definitely on the Russian interference and what they did accomplish. There's a lot of concern about that.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi apparently has got a big plan. She's laying it out in a 6-page memo that she's going to be sending out to Democrats today, basically issuing a directive that she wants to continue this Mueller report into the fall. So they're not done with this yet. Whether or not they get what they want out of Mueller or not tomorrow, they're not done with Mueller. They're not laying this to rest. Why don't you tell us what that's all about?
Well, it's about continuing this pitch. They believe that they can try to instruct the American people on the road to impeachment. And it's a dangerous road because the American people at some point, if push comes to shove and it's not really made, the case is not made, will make a determination as you head into the election how important that is. You do not see a lot of Democratic candidates talking about impeachment on the campaign trail again and again and again. And we will probably see more of this questioning about this for the Democratic debate later on this week.
Let's just talk about potential questions that they have, both Republicans and the Democrats. There's a New York Times op-ed. The acting Solicitor General under President Obama says that you only need to ask the special counsel 3 questions, and then he laid them out. So I want to know what you think. Mr. Mueller, the president said your report found, in his words, no collusion, no obstruction, complete and total exoneration. Question 1, first, did your report find there was no collusion? Second, did your report find there was no obstruction? And third, did your report give the president complete and total exoneration? What do you think of those questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what Democrats want to get to. I think that Mueller can weave his way through there and point back to the report. As is written there, he found no criminal conspiracy. He didn't indict anyone on either the conspiracy with the Russians or the obstruction. Obviously, he made the conclusion, according to the report, that he couldn't go forward with an indictment of the president, but he could have done a lot of other people and charged them with obstruction, and he didn't. So Republicans, on the flip side, will ask, when did you know that there was not a conspiracy charge moving forward in this report? Was it before the midterm elections? That'll be a big question. And then they'll ask, but probably won't get answers, on the beginning of the probe and how it all started.
This is going to be good stuff. You're going to be watching it from D.C., special coverage tomorrow, so we'll be watching you watching this. I can't wait.
Just to make sure, we are covering starting at 8 a.m.
Yes.
Martha McCallum and I will be anchoring this coverage throughout the day.
Yeah, for some reason, there were those out there that thought we wouldn't. What, are you crazy? Why would we miss this? I got a front seat right here. All right, thank you so much, Brett Baer. We'll be watching. Fox News alert now as U.S. officials tell our Pentagon team that an American warship in the Strait of Hormuz destroyed 2 Iranian drones last week, not one, as we originally reported. Now, sailors and Marines aboard the USS Boxer saw at least one of those drones go down, while the other apparently disappeared from radar. Both drones were taken out without firing a single shot. They were actually destroyed by a new Marine Corps anti-drone jamming device that fried the drone's electronic systems. Mitch McConnell expected to be asked about the Senate vote on the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund any moment now, and we will monitor this for you. Plus, Joe Biden rolling out a campaign policy that reverses much of the controversial crime bill he supported in the 1990s. And one 2020 candidate apparently loves paella so much, it was worth a mere $32,000 bill. We've got some odd purchases on the campaign trail for you next. 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund never runs out of money. 9/11 first responders have traveled to Washington to testify about the fund's importance, but some GOP lawmakers are raising concerns about cost. Mike Emanuel reports from Capitol Hill Live with us. Hi, Mike.
Julie, good afternoon to you. Yeah, that 9/11 bill passed the House overwhelmingly, and it appears likely to do the same in the Senate. Some 9/11 first responders met privately with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell about a month ago, and McConnell gave his commitment that the Senate would get this done before the upcoming August recess. McConnell spoke about that meeting and the 9/11 bill today on the Senate floor.
They gave me the badge of Luis Alvarez, a New York Police Department bomb squad detective who was terminally ill and has since tragically passed away. It was my honor to receive it. It was my honor to reiterate that the Senate's ironclad commitment to getting this done was never in doubt.
The price tag is estimated to be $10.2 billion over the next decade. The Senate's top Democrat, a New Yorker, also expressing strong support for these 9/11 heroes.
They'll be able to go home, attend to their illnesses, their family members, their friends. That's what they always wanted to do, just take care of themselves and their families, their friends who got sick from the poisonous stuff that was in the air right after 9/11, and bravely these men and women rushed to the towers.
The other big news of the day, this two-year budget agreement hammered out by Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. It would raise spending by $320 billion over the current limits. Military and domestic spending would both go up. It would also suspend the debt ceiling, the government's limit on borrowing through July 2021, and some conservatives are not happy.
That's why we've got $22 trillion worth of debt and climbing. And we're just like Thelma and Louise in that car headed toward the cliff. And if we don't do something about it now, when?
Mnuchin has been in the Senate Republican luncheon trying to sell those senators on this deal. Julie?
All right. Mike Emanuel, thank you so much. Campaign trail mix time now. Joe Biden out with a new plan. Elizabeth Warren is under fire again over her ancestry claims. Cory Booker knocks the president's appearance and, well, some pretty pricey paella. Peter Ducey is live in Washington with all of this. Peter?
Julie, Joe Biden did roll out a new criminal justice plan today, but because he was also one of the champions of the 1994 Tough on Crime bill, Cory Booker is not satisfied. And he said this in a statement. Joe Biden had more than 40 years to get this right. The proud architect of a failed system is not the right person to fix it. The 1994 crime bill accelerated mass incarceration and inflicted immeasurable harm on black, brown, and low-income communities. And Booker isn't just challenging Biden today. He's also sizing up President Trump.
And my testosterone sometimes makes me want to feel like punching him, and which would be bad for this elderly, out of shape man that he is. If I did that, this physically weak specimen, physically weak.
While Booker is talking physical offense, Elizabeth Warren is on defense, challenged by a town hall attendee about confusing claims of Native American ancestry.
She apologized. She admitted that she had made a mistake. But then she went on to go into more information about housing and affirmative action, which at that point I felt like she was starting to pander to me instead of giving me an honest answer about where she had made a mistake.
And today we have a better idea of how campaigns are using all their donations. Politico went and pulled some of the most notable records in recently released financial forms, finding that at one point, Joe Biden spent $12,000 on paella. Andrew Yang, $377 on a karaoke event space, and Beto O'Rourke, $328 on minor league baseball. So if you think that your donation to your favorite candidate is just funding campaign mailers and bumper stickers, you'd be wrong. Julie?
All right. Must have been really good paella. I understand the paella has no shrimp in it.
You are asking the wrong person.
Well, I mean, if you're going to pay $12,000, you said?
Well, if it does have shrimp, I hope that they ate it quickly.
I don't think that they had shrimp. I mean, isn't that what you're paying for, the seafood? So you're just paying $12,000 in sausage and rice. Sounds expensive.
We can Google that and have it for you in tomorrow's campaign show.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter. Please do. See you later. Well, the House passing a bill that would more than double the minimum wage, but one Democratic congresswoman says it needs to be even higher. Plus, Canadian police releasing new video. It's surveillance cam of the couple found dead along a highway amid new fears their death may be linked to others in the area.
This program is brought to you by Mercedes.
It should be $20 an hour, right? $18 to $20 an hour at this point. They say all this is going to raise the cost, but I can tell you, milk has gone up, eggs has gone up, everything has gone up, the cost of food has gone up, the cost of a lot of things that we need has gone up already.
Okay, so that's Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. She's calling for a federal minimum wage of $20 per hour. Right now, it's $7.25, so that's quite a hike. Now, as you may remember, last week, the House passed a $15 minimum. Analysts say it's not likely to go anywhere in the Senate, though. Either way, critics, including the top White House economic advisor, say that a $20 minimum wage would actually be a job killer. Let's bring in Chris Hogan. He's a personal finance expert for Ramsey Solutions and also author of Everyday Millionaires. So if we read your book, we become millionaires?
It can definitely put you on the path.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to pick it up.
Well, I brought one for you.
Oh, okay, great. Well, then I'm going to read it. All right. So as we know, the House did approve that bill. Most likely not. It's not going anywhere, but it was a $15, an hour rate hike for minimum wage. What do you make of Rashida Tlaib's proposal of $20? I mean, does this make fiscal sense?
Well, first and foremost, let's call it what it is. This is a political stunt. This is a thing to try to pander to people to try to get them emotional. She's in a diner speaking to people that can totally relate.
Yeah.
Right, first and foremost. But if we do the math on that, and if we were to look at going to 15, what's next? 20, 25? It's not going to solve anything. If anything, it's going to create less jobs for these entry-level positions. So it's actually going to do a disservice to people.
Okay, so here's how the minimum wage House bill looks like on screen. Gradually, it's going to increase the minimum wage to $15. That's by 2025. Okay, after $15 is reached, the bill would index further hikes to median wage growth and then phase out lower minimum wage paid to tipped workers. Here's the problem. Larry Kudlow, the director of the Economic Council, says that it's not a good plan, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Listen.
A recent study by the Congressional Budget Office, when you have these big increases in the national federal minimum wage, yes, some jobs, some wages go up for, some set number of millions of workers, but we also lose millions of jobs because a lot of these businesses, small businesses, can't afford it.
So then what would be a reasonable rate hike? $7.25. That's been the minimum wage for way too long. People do need a raise, but how much can we afford?
Well, I'm one of those people as a self-employed kind of mentality. I understand that your raise is effective when you are. So I can't necessarily come out and give you a hardcore dollar amount. But what I can tell you is this. People out there can start to feel economic growth for themselves if they follow the plan that I teach. Get yourself out of debt, get yourself on a budget, and have an emergency fund. When you get out of debt, you give yourself a raise. Listen, we can move the minimum wage to whatever number. Until people learn the skills of how to effectively manage money, they're never going to feel the real progress.
Yeah. Well, there is, talking about saving, an AP poll that's coming out that's saying that people are weary about retiring. Many people don't feel secure in their funds and in their savings to retire ever, but you say it's never too late.
No, it's not. Recent polls that I've seen, it says 56% of American workers have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. I mean, that's alarming when you start to think about just the sheer dollar amounts it requires for a mortgage or groceries. This is an epidemic. So I tell people retirement's not an age, it's a financial number. Too many people are expecting to get at a magic age of 65 and the government's going to ride in and save the day. You and I know better. Social Security is on track to be insolvent by 2034. This is a true problem. So what we can't do is wait on the government. We have to begin to help ourselves.
Wow. All right, so then get started. You have an amazing voice, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
Do you sing by any chance?
I can hum.
Oh, man.
That's about all I got.
Well, you talk really well, so
thank you
stick
very
to that.
much.
All right, thank
Yes,
you so
ma'am.
much, Chris Hogan. Well, Fox News alert now. 2 teenagers who had been considered missing are now suspects in several killings in Canada, including that of this young couple. We're going to break this down for you. Plus, a suspect has been arrested in connection to the death of a student at Ole Miss. The latest on that investigation. Plus, a Fox poll showing almost half of you want Democrats to spend less time investigating the president. So why don't they? inquest in the death of 21-year-old Ali Castro. Her body was found about 20 miles away from the Ole Miss campus Saturday morning. Casey Stiegel is live in Dallas with more on this tragic story. Hi, Casey.
Hey, Julie. Yeah, the suspect actually lives here in Texas, but he too was a student at the University of Mississippi, or Ole Miss, and so he had moved down there. Now, we'll talk about him more in a second, but first, again, bringing everybody up to speed. The body was discovered over the weekend. It was in a very, very remote area, about 20 miles from the actual campus in Oxford. Investigators said that it was that of Alexandria Costal, or Allie, as her friends call her. Allie was 21 years old from St. Louis and came down there to study marketing. The local sheriff's office said at the time foul play was suspected, but didn't have anything else, something her friends simply couldn't understand why anybody would want to hurt her friend.
Very spontaneous with Allie. She would do just about anything. She loved outdoors. She loved just, you know, hanging out with her friends. She was just like that person you always wanted to be around.
And so now this guy, Brandon Thiesfeld, is behind bars charged with murder, according to the reporting of the Oxford Eagle newspaper. He was arrested yesterday, though officials right now are not saying if he had this specific connection to the victim, other than just the fact that they were both students in the same school. We can tell you that this is a developing situation, though officials at the university have in fact confirmed that he was a student, that he was taking summer classes, and that he was studying to earn his bachelor's degree in the School of Business Administration, but he has been clearly suspended. So this is fluid. Julie, we're working it. More information as we get it.
All right, Casey Stiegel, thank you so much. A Fox News alert now on the Canada double murder mystery involving an American woman and her boyfriend. Now police are saying two teens apparently reported missing earlier are now suspects in the young couple's killing. Rick Leventhal is live with more. Hey, Rick.
And Julie, this is all breaking within the last few minutes. This new information coming from Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who've spent days trying to handle two major investigations, unsure if they were connected. Well, now authorities reveal the two teens previously believed to be missing are actually murder suspects. 19-year-old Cam McLeod, 18-year-old Brian Schmigelski hadn't been seen or heard from since last Friday, said to be headed towards Yukon country looking for work in this Dodge pickup truck, which authorities found burning at the side of Highway 37. About a mile from the torch vehicle, authorities found a body of an older Caucasian man with a beard and heavy build, releasing this sketch in hopes of identifying him. Now police say the teens killed that man and also may have murdered 24-year-old American China Deese and her 23-year-old Australian boyfriend Lucas Fowler, who were found shot to death along Alaska Highway about 300 miles south of where the teens were thought to have gone missing. The couple had been on a road trip when their Chevy van broke down. Before they were killed, some Good Samaritans stopped and spoke to them.
We were there to help them, like almost like an angel there to help them in a way, like trying to be good and help them, but yet that same day the complete opposite of humanity hurt them like that and killed them so tragically.
Canadian Mounted Police shared this footage from a gas station shortly before the couple was killed, where Lucas filled the tank and China cleaned the windows, and then they shared a hug there. Well, the investigators also released a sketch of a suspect reportedly seen in a heated exchange with Fowler and Deese next to their disabled van in the hours before they were murdered. Once again, authorities now say the two teens, once thought to be missing, may actually be the killers. They were last seen in northern Saskatchewan in a gray 2011 Toyota RAV4. They may also have changed their appearance, according to authorities, who want the public to be on alert and call 911 if they spot these two teens. Julie.
All right, Rick Leventhal, thank you very much. House Democrats are hoping tomorrow's Mueller hearing will help move the needle of public opinion against President Trump. But a recent Fox News poll shows nearly half, in fact, of American voters, 48%, say Democrats should spend less time investigating the president. Just 22% say they should spend more time. 25% say it's about right. I feel like I'm referring to the Three Little Bears and Goldilocks in the porridge. Anyway, joining me now is Amy Tarkanian, former Nevada State Republican chairman, and Jessica Tarlov, head of research at Bustle and Fox News contributor. Okay, how would you like your porridge? No, I'm just kidding.
So I'd like the 22% version.
Yeah, I'd like the in the middle one. So do you think that Mueller's testimony tomorrow is actually going to sway the court of public opinion, if you will?
I think that it will a little bit. Even the 9.5 minutes, I think, is what he clocked in at when he came out and spoke about a month ago, did change things. You saw an uptick in people who, first of all, supported impeachment, but also people who believed Bob Mueller and the Democrats versus the president. And that's really the contrast we want to draw here. Democrats were elected in 2018, first and foremost, to get good quality, affordable health care for Americans, but also to fulfill their oversight capacity. That's our constitutional duty. That's part of it. So I'm not that worried about it. I think tomorrow will be a helping hand to Democrats, but then, get right back to legislating, keep passing those bills, and then we'll do well in 2020.
I mean, if polls are saying that people want this investigation to stop, I mean, the investigation is over. But once this Mueller testimony comes forward, Americans do want to move forward.
Right.
Is this going to possibly backfire for Democrats, especially Nancy Pelosi, who is saying that she wants to take this fight well into the fall?
I actually agree with Jessica to a degree that I think it will help the Democrats a smidgen, probably won't give them a huge bounce like what they're hoping for. But what we really need to focus on here are maybe the independents and nonpartisans. They were the fastest growing party, especially out in the state of Nevada in the last election. And that's something that we really need to take consideration. It's not really, I think most Republicans and most Democrats have already made up their minds on this.
Okay, well, the other question then is, and you just, read my mind, is that will it sway any opinion on Democrats? Because there were, a lot of Democrats that were against the impeachment vote, right? I wonder if there's anything that they might hear tomorrow that might sway them in the other way. That's what Nancy Pelosi or other Democrats are hoping. Republicans, on the other hand, I wonder if that will sway minds. If you're Senator Lindsey Graham, the answer is no. I want to play that.
It won't reshape my dynamic. I've heard all I need to hear from Mueller. I've read his report. I accept the findings. I don't think it's going to change public opinion. Having been involved in the Clinton impeachment, if the public's not with you, you'll pay a price. And I don't think anything Mueller can say that's going to change anybody's mind.
Okay.
Listen, we have to always keep in mind that there's Lindsey Graham version 2019 versus Lindsey Graham version 2015, 2016, when he's on record calling President Trump a racist and a bigot and a xenophobe. Since the passing of Senator John McCain, he seems to have lost his moral compass there. So I don't expect Lindsey Graham's mind to be changed here. But when you do hear it from the horse's mouth, from Bob Mueller, even if he is just reading what is already on the page, it will become clear to people that he did not say no collusion. He did not say no obstruction. It was clear that it was part of the OLC guidelines that he would not be moving forward with this. There are 10 clear points of potential obstruction of justice. And as he said in that press conference, if he could have said that he did not obstruct justice, the president, he would have. It makes a difference.
In the end, we're going to have to just see, really, is this going to move the needle for the voters? Is this going to affect the upcoming election? And I really believe that no, it's not. I think most of the public, like that poll shows, is pretty exhausted. And this is noise that is now pretty much white noise for the average voter. The only people who are really paying attention to this tomorrow that are going to tune in are someone like yourself, like myself, and all the other political nerds out there, if you will. Yes, the news junkies.
I personally love white noise. It helps me go to sleep every night. So there's that. All right. I want to move on to the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund. The vote is in the Senate soon. What is going to happen? Basically, this money would allow those who were down there on ground zero to have an endless limit of funds for the rest of their lives.
Through 2092, well beyond the rest of their lives for their children and their families. I think it is disgusting that Rand Paul and Mike Lee had any issues with this to begin with. This is one of those funnel taps, the money tap that I just say, spend it. These people risk their lives for us. I grew up downtown. My family was evacuated from our home. Saw the impact of 9/11 firsthand and the bravery of these men and women who ran towards the crisis. I believe it will pass now. But the reports out of what it was like dealing with Senator Mike Lee and Senator Rand Paul, I find to be shameful.
I mean, they were saying that they needed to find the funds. They didn't necessarily say that they wanted to deny the funds to these firefighters.
Look at the budget deal. They could find the funds.
they did, they did approve tax cuts, and that cost way more money.
Okay, but in fairness, this is something that Senator Paul and Senator Lee have done historically. I mean, they did this for the humanitarian aid. They did this for the border funding. All they were saying was, hey, let's put the amendment out. We just want to make sure that we can fund all of these priorities and make sure that we do this in a fashion that we're going to keep being able to pump the money and that's necessary. They weren't saying this was a bad idea. They just wanted to see, could we move the money around from other places? That was it.
All right. Amy Tarkanian, thank you very much. Jessica Turlov.
Thanks, Julie.
For a conversation. Oh, 3 brunettes on a panel. Look at that. House Democrats are holding a mock hearing. So who's playing Mueller? We're going to ask Chad Program that question and more. Plus, some advice for wannabe drug dealers. If you're going to move your goods, you might want to work on your driving. Up next, what cops are calling one of the police. The driver crashed into, watch it, wait for it, a parked car. Police cruiser, in fact, outside a Sydney station yesterday. He took off, but officers tracked him down, searched his van, and then they found inside 600 pounds of meth. Jackpot. No one was injured in the crash, but the police car had significant damage. The 28-year-old driver now faces charges of drug supply and negligent driving. House Judiciary Committee Democrats confirming Robert Mueller's longtime aide will appear as a witness for tomorrow's hearing on the Hill, and Republicans are none too happy about it. Doug Collins saying this, a last-minute addition to the witness list would now jeopardize whether tomorrow's hearing complies with the rules of the House. Let's bring in Fox News senior producer for Capitol Hill, Chad Program. So, Chad, they can do this? They can just bring in a last-minute witness? No pushback?
Well, this is a little bit up in the air here, and that's the reason I brought the House rule book with me today, because this gets kind of technical. Yes, I seem like I walk around with this all the time now. But here's what's in question. It's House Rule 11, clauses 2K3, 2G4, and 2G3. That's in the House rules here. And what that deals with is a witness is allowed to have counsel with him or her at the table. But the question is, can they actually talk? Can they actually answer questions? Are they actually considered a witness? And the other part deals with this, is the announcement of the hearing, which says you're going to have witness A, B, and C. If this wasn't announced as a witness, that's a problem. Now, this is something I've just gotten from the House Judiciary Committee before we came on the air. The Judiciary Committee Democrats say the following. Aaron Zebley, that's Robert Mueller's counsel, will be there as counsel to Robert Mueller tomorrow and will sit next to him during the hearing. So we anticipate seeing him, and it's not, unquestionable that we don't see someone, whisper in the ear or advise their counsel or their witness or something on constitutional issues or law or how to answer a question. But whether or not that constitutes a witness is up in the air, and according to the House Democrats, that is not the case. Now, we are about to have these Robert Mueller hearings devour Capitol Hill. As you know, off to the side, they're working on this debt ceiling and spending caps package, but all of the news oxygen is directed toward this hearing tomorrow. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, was just asked whether or not he would be watching the hearing, and he said no. And then, Julie, the question is, what do Democrats do with this? Do they tee this up as a narrative going into the August recess, which starts for them at the end of this week? And does this ramp up impeachment? Remember, there were 95 total House members, 94 Democrats, 1 independent, Justin Amash, who voted for impeachment. Do those numbers change after the hearing tomorrow morning?
That'll be interesting to see if if the ticker moves on that one. House Judiciary Democrats, I understand, are holding mock Mueller hearings today. Who's playing Mueller?
Yeah, they're going through the last minute preparations. We don't know, actually. Sometimes before these presidential debates, they always have somebody stand in and play that role. We don't definitively know that that's happening, but they're definitely structuring their questioning and figuring out their lines of attack for tomorrow. The House Intelligence Committee, as we've just heard, they are going to dig into the WikiLeaks issue and what the president may have known about WikiLeaks before those emails came out.
The Justice Department has argued that anything outside the public report is covered by what's called presidential privilege, and that it has not been waived. Robert Mueller has basically said that he will not answer questions that are not detailed in that 400-plus public, report that he released to the public. Do you think the Democrats are going to abide by that?
Well, this is the question, because we just got a statement, from Barr, the Attorney General, saying that, he was asked by Mueller to put out that letter to say, here are the terms of engagement. And Mueller has been consistent in saying that he will not deviate from the corners of that report. And that's pretty much what that letter from the Justice Department to Mueller said last night, Julie.
Okay, I want to talk about the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund, because that vote is supposed to take place in the Senate today. That money is pretty much shored up, right?
Right, yeah, and we're about probably 35 minutes away from that vote starting. If you look at the Senate floor right now, there's a series of votes leading up to that. You might remember that Mike Lee and Rand Paul, Republican senators from Utah and Kentucky, were worried about the overall cost on that. I tried to get Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, to comment on that, and he said, we're going to get, these victims the compensation that they deserve. So probably in about, 35 minutes, they'll start that roll call vote, and certainly before 4 o'clock, the Senate will have voted to approve the bill. They will be in alignment with the House, and then the measure will go to President Trump to sign into law, Julie.
All right, Chad Pergram, thank you very much. You're the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
New video released by ICE showing immigration officers detaining criminal fugitives within the past 2 months, in fact, as part of an interior enforcement operation. In fact, since mid-May, ICE has arrested almost 900 immigrants with final deportation orders. And out of those, 605 already had criminal convictions. Last weekend alone, 35 people were arrested in raids across 10 cities. Well, for years, millions of Americans have been taking aspirin daily to prevent heart disease. Why researchers are now saying millions should not. Massive protests there sweeping the streets of San Juan yesterday amid calls for Rosselló's resignation. The governor under fire for leaked online chats of him mocking his constituents. Next up, an Arizona wildfire burning near Flagstaff forces 24 mandatory evacuations. Authorities warning thousands more to be prepared to leave.
I'm going to take your vape like this, okay? I'm going to put it into my hands like this. If I just push, look, it just turns.
Nah, bro. Nah, bro.
If you vape, you're more likely to start smoking cigarettes.
I don't want to try this.
Finally, the FDA launching its first e-cigarette prevention TV ads as part of a real cost campaign. New numbers show the number of teen users more than doubled from last year. There's also an alarming new study warning. Millions of Americans, they're mistakenly taking aspirin to prevent heart disease, and they should stop. Alicia Acuna has more to explain. Hey, Alicia.
Hi, Julia. This is a study out of Harvard that found 29 million Americans over the age of 40 have been taking a daily dose of aspirin, even though they don't have heart disease. What's more than 6.5 million of those were doing so without a doctor recommendation, something that can actually be bad for you. Here's Dr. Mark Siegel earlier today on America's Newsroom.
I'm going to tell you out there, you better talk to your doctor about this. You know why? There's a risk of bleeding. There's a risk of an ulcer.
A daily low dose of aspirin is something that doctors do recommend for survivors of a heart attack in order to prevent another one. The study calls out physicians to do some investigating of their own, writing, quote, "Our findings show a tremendous need for healthcare practitioners to inquire about ongoing aspirin use and to counsel patients about the balance of benefits and harms." Several recent studies this year prompted the American Heart Association and American College of Cardiology to revamp guidelines in March. Here they are. Avoid taking a daily aspirin dose if you are over the age of 70 and don't have heart disease, or if you are younger than that but are at increased risk for bleeding. Some folks with certain high risks between the ages of 40 and 70 may need a low dose, but only if recommended by a physician. Bottom line, Julie, this is not a decision to be made from watching the news. It's one to be made in consultation with your doctor. Julie.
All right. Thank you very much, Alicia Acuna. By the way, tomorrow, what you doing? You got to watch Fox, because we are going to be continuing coverage on Robert Mueller's testimony. We will have Brett Baer and Martha McCallum. They will continue our coverage. It starts tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. So tune in to Fox News Channel to watch it. Wall-to-wall coverage here on Fox News Channel. And thank you for joining us. I'm Julie Banderas. Here is Shepard Smith.
Breaking news and a live look at the U.S. Senate floor. Lawmakers are about to vote on extending the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund for decades. We'll talk with a 9/11 first responder who was also a lawyer for retired NYPD Detective Lou Alvarez. who fought for his fellow heroes until the day he died. But first today, a Fox News urgent: an Ole Miss college student arrested and charged with murder. The victim, a co-ed at the university, who sheriff's deputies found dead, shot 8 times. The suspect is 22-year-old Brandon Thiesfeld, seen here coming out of the detention center in Lafayette County this morning, who had been a student at Ole Miss, but the university said was suspended. He made his first appearance there today, where a reporter described him as looking somber and stone-faced. The victim, 21-year-old Allie Castile. She was from St. Louis and a marketing major in the Ole Miss School of Business Administration. Castile was on track to graduate next spring. She was last seen alive Friday night outside a bar on the Oxford Square, the center of the town's nightlife. Surveillance video reportedly shows she walked up to the door of the place, stopped, turned around, and then walked out of camera view, never went in. We don't know yet where she went next, but her roommate says Castile returned home around midnight and then went back out at some point. The roommate says she didn't hear her leave and really doesn't know where she was going. The next morning, Saturday, a local sheriff's deputy on patrol in Harmontown, about a 30-minute drive from campus on the north side of Sardis Lake here. That's where they found Castile's remains. The exact location, a remote area called Buford's Ridge. Her body riddled with bullets. Friends from Allie's hometown say they can't believe she's gone.
You don't ever think it's going to be your friend, ever. Like, you just don't think that.
I was just out of breath when I heard about it.
Her Alpha Phi sorority sisters at Ole Miss describe her as a ball of light who always had a smile on her face. And one friend told Action News 5 in Memphis that she was quite possibly the nicest person she'd ever met. Jake Thompson is on the line with us now. He's a reporter for the local newspaper, the Oxford Eagle, and has been covering this since word of her death on Saturday. Jake, do we know if the suspect and Allie knew each other? I know they were both at one point in the business school.
Yes, Jeff, thanks for having me on. And we do know that they knew each other in some capacity. I've seen photos of them together. It looked like maybe a formal or some kind of a party or gathering. So we